This is Gina. Thank you, Virgo, for joining me today. I just finished your March horoscope, and that is going to go up later today. But I'm taking this opportunity to have a bit of a live check in with each sign as well. Basically, I have two different sides of my channel. I have this sort of informal, casual astrology live chat that I do every day. And often we talk about what's happening in the current astrology. We might look at the chart overall, or we take a look at one specific transit. uh, and then I also do horoscopes, and I do those by the month. And so there's so much happening in the astrology in February, March, and April that I thought that I would take this opportunity to connect live and say hello. So, good morning. And if you're here live, please feel free to contribute in the chat. And if you're watching this later, feel free to leave anything in the comments and I'll respond later as well. So, yeah, I mean, let's take a look at the current chart. Let's just talk about a few key things. I like to show them sort of up here on the visual as well. I think that it helps for the sake of clarity. But my hope is that if you're interested in learning more about astrology, that following along with the chart and with the little notes I make and things like that can be helpful for you for that. And also, if you just want to hear your horoscope and you just want to hear about the astrology, that you can sort of just tune in on that level. My hope is that this is sort of something that works for everyone. And also just that this has the tone, especially this Astrology Chat Live, that it has the tone here of just sort of hanging out with a friend of yours who happens to know astrology. So feel free to leave anything in the chat. My horoscopes are a little bit different. They're basically scripted. I spend quite a bit of time on them. So feel free to check that out for February and March as well. I'm in the middle of doing March as well. Right now, rather, and Virgo will go up later today. Okay, so let's get into this. Thank you for your patience. Right now is so significant. The most significant thing happening with the astrology at this exact moment, this Sunday morning, is this Mars stationing direct, finally. Mars retrograde is so long. It's the whole process from beginning to end. A planet can spend about 6 months in one or two houses. And that's what's happened here. And in fact, here at the end of the retrograde, we'll be coming back through. Let me just sort of draw this in the chart as a way of explaining it in case that's helpful to anyone. It's very quick. So Mars was moving through the signs and houses like he normally does. He got through Cancer and into Leo and then moved retrograde and then moved back through Cancer to now where Cancer's moving direct, and we'll go through again Leo before moving on through the chart. So you can see how normally Mars spends just a handful of weeks in a sign, but because of this retrograde, we're getting all this extra time in these different houses and signs. So especially right here at 17 degrees where Mars is currently, Mars has been there for like a couple of weeks and will be for another couple of weeks because Mars is a fairly slow moving planet for a personal planet. And when he's stationing, it's even slower. So, okay, just to say, during the retrograde, we may have felt not as motivated, not as confident. We might have felt energy more moving inward than outward. And for you, these houses that have been most affected, let's talk about here the 11th house where Cancer, where Mars has been for quite some time. This involves friends and groups. So a couple different things here. First, you might have for some reason had to spend more time with a friend than you really had expected to. Something might have come up with a loved one. a friend or a group that you belong to, some matter that has needed to be attended to. Or it just could have been that some energy was sort of going to that part of your life internally in some way. Are you rethinking groups that you belong to? Um, are you reconsidering some of your friendships in some kind of a way? Does it feel like the energy has been moving differently when it comes to those areas? And then here in Leo, it's just such an internal, sort of personal process. You know, Mars retrograde there could speak about sort of things coming to the surface that you hadn't thought about for a while to be healed. But it's not always easy when old memories or, yeah, something we haven't thought about for a while, sort of for some reason gets pinged, gets triggered, if you will, and then it comes to the surface. But the good news there is that it can be healed. So these are the two life areas that Mars retrograde has been working with. Wherever Mars is, it's a place where we not need to, but where we'd be wise to reconsider our actions, to sort of think about the way we're acting and make some adjustments. So when it comes to friends and groups, it may be that you are in the middle of a process right now that was sort of a necessary process and a good process for you, where you are sort of meant right now to be doing some reevaluating of those relationships. And it doesn't mean new people or getting rid of people necessarily. It could mean those things a little bit, but it could just be showing up in those relationships differently as well, or those relationships growing and evolving in a certain kind of way. Okay, a couple other things that I want to talk about here. The first is actually here in your first house. So it's pretty significant. I'm really kind of falling in love with the South Node in Virgo. Let me just get it circled on our chart here. And I feel like this is especially significant for you. So all of the planets move, uh, uh, what am I doing? Oh, they move counterclockwise, right? All of the planets move counterclockwise through the chart, but the North Node actually goes the other way and goes this way. So the North Node is a point in the sky and it's related to eclipses. It's related to where the eclipses are occurring. So even though the North or the South Node is here at 27 degrees, it actually has just begun its journey through Virgo because the nodes move backwards. So you have 18 more months of this signature. And here's what I love about the South Node. We always are looking at the North Node. We're looking at our fate, what's coming in terms of our fate. We'll get there in a minute. It's really beautiful. It's about relationships. I'll get there in a second. But the South Node gives us the opportunity to think about whatever sign it's moving through and to release the more negative sides of that signature. It gives us that opportunity. And that can be really hard when we're talking about your rising sign, your sun sign, a sign that you really work with. It can be hard to release those negative sides of the signature. But when you do, it allows the highest forms sides of the signature to rise to the surface even more. I'm going to attach a video at the end of this one where my friend Corinne and I, who's also an astrologer, talked about each of the signs. And we talked about, we called it like a light and shadow. You know, every sign has both of those sides. And so when you release some of those shadow traits, the light sides are more able to flourish. They have more room to flourish. So the South Node, when the South Node takes 18 months to go through a sign, like it is through Virgo right now, it gives us that opportunity. So what does that mean for Virgo? It means releasing perfectionism, over planning, overdoing, being too detail oriented, not being able to just go with the flow, being too critical of others, being too critical of yourself, especially being way too hard on yourself. I think that the thing that people don't get about the Virgo signature is that it really is trying to help. It's not being critical. It really is trying to help. And Virgo doesn't feel like it's criticizing because Virgo is so hard on themselves that when they're saying something that they feel is helpful to someone else, that they have a hard time understanding why it's being read as criticism, if that makes sense. But still, I think releasing a tendency to be too hard on yourself does sort of ease and allow that signature to open up in a different way. What opens up on the light side of Virgo, more than anything else, what comes to the surface is service. Service from an authentic place. Service from a place of truly feeling connected to another, wanting to help, feeling genuine compassion, doing it in a way that truly works for you, right? That fits your daily routine, that actually boosts your health. You know, when we love someone else and we connect with them from a really sincere place of just seeing where they need some help and or where they're vulnerable and responding to that vulnerability with kindness and openness and warmth, that is opening up the connection in such a deeper way that it really heals both people and it elevates and is good for both people. So when the service and the help of others is coming from that place, right? Not from a place where you're too hard on yourself, too critical, um, trying to do it perfectly, too long of a list, too detail oriented. Um, Virgo loves checking things off a list. It's okay to be organized. That might be a higher form of the signature. I enjoy that myself. But anyway, I just think that releasing this is so wonderful and helpful for Virgo. And so we have an eclipse coming in the middle of March. Again, be sure to check out my horoscope that'll be released later today for March for you to hear more about that. But it's connected to this South Node. And this is a longer process that will be going on for about 18 months. So I love this for Virgos. Okay, let's talk about the Pisces sector of your chart, your seventh house, as promised. Super important here today for sure. So the seventh house rules your closest one-to-one relationships. So romantic partners show up here quite frequently, spouses, business partners, really anyone that you share your life with. You know, if you live with someone, they can show up here. But spouses, romantic partners are certainly the most common. It can also have to do with sort of like the concept of the other, you know, as opposed to your relationship with yourself. So I mentioned that because we do have so much activity here in terms of what's going on with you, that, you know, this energy is pinging back and forth here with the nodes. The more you do this work on yourself, the more it shows up in your relationships. And then you're also getting support for doing this work on yourself from your relationships. Okay, so as we can see, this Pisces sector of the chart is super loaded. And it's just so wonderful and positive for you, Virgo. I think that you should watch not just my horoscope for March, but other people's horoscopes for March, because you will find that you're going to get some really positive love horoscopes for the month of March, if ever there was one. And if you don't get something like that, I don't know about that astrologer, because, we have dreamy Neptune here with the North Node of Fate. It's almost like a dreams can come true signature. Now, we always want to be careful with Pisces because Pisces can be a little bit um, escapism. It can go a little bit too into the mystical. It can over idealize, right? So while you want to be careful to not overdo it, there can be some things showing up right now in your romantic connections that sort of feel too good to be true, but actually are true. And it's a wonderful time to plant seeds for the future that will grow. And we have the North Node here. The North Node just moving through your seventh house for 18 months helps you to better align with things that are meant for you, what's really truly meant for you. And basically, there's just a ton of transits happening in this sector of the chart and this sector of the chart for the next few months and really even longer, really into 2016. So I'm sorry today. I'm trying to have this check-in just for today, and I keep talking about the next 18 months or so, but that's kind of how it is in the astrology right now. Um, and so it's like, it's got to do with like, oh, I'm sorry, Pisces here and Aries here, your seventh house and your eighth house, all about that romantic connection and those one-to-one partnerships and your work together and how it transforms you, how it brings in more wisdom into your life, moving into a new phase with these themes. So Saturn is here giving us the practical support to make things happen. I feel like Saturn helps us to solve problems that we couldn't solve before, gives us sort of the practical steps that we need. Yeah, it's really quite a wonderful time for you for relationships, Virgo. Check out my February horoscope as well, because this new moon that is occurring in a few days is really lighting up this house for you. When the moon here progresses and comes along to meet this sun, we'll have the new moon. And the sky in Pisces will be absolutely loaded at that time. So it's worth seeing the chart just to take a look at it. And that opens up eclipse season as well. So these nodes are super activated. Oh, any questions in the chat about any of this? It was really nice to check in, and thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have a great day, a great March, and I'll see you again tomorrow.